Hello, beautiful creative friends, it's Belinda, and today I am sharing my latest Hip Kit Club design team project using the September kits. This is a 12 by 12 layout and it documents a winter family holiday where we went on some little hikes together. I wanted to keep the design clean and minimal and worked with a limited blue-green color palette, which is not something that you're going to often see from me, and just adding in a few gentle layers to create some texture and depth without clutter. So I've started off with a white cardstock base, as I do for almost all of my layouts, and I wanted to mat it onto one of the cardstock pieces from the cardstock kit. But as you can see, I cut out the center from the wrong cardstock. I started with that darker blue, and I kind of wanted this sort of a duck egg blue for my border. I didn't want anything that was too dark. As I mentioned, I am working with an analogous color palette. I hope I've pronounced that correctly. So I went through and I pulled out some pattern papers that are, have those soft blues, some of the teals, the greens, and I do use that darker navy blue as well, just for a bit of boldness. And the inspiration for documenting this story with this kit actually came from the Craft and Connect community. When my September kit arrived, I made a post in that community just asking if anybody had any things that they would like to see me create with this kit. And one of the requests was for some holiday or vacation layouts. And although a winter holiday may not be what they were specifically wanting, I kind of thought that creating something with a simple design and a limited color palette is actually a really good approach for documenting holidays, when we quite often have lots of photos, lots of stories that we want to document. And of course, we don't want to spend hours and hours and hours on a single page. So keeping things simple, I think, is really good when we are documenting holidays, vacation, travel, anything like that. So as I mentioned, I went through and I pulled out some pattern papers using that sort of tealy, greeny blue color scheme. And what I am doing now is trimming these down to around 8.5 inches tall. That's the length of the fancy edge dies that I'm going to be using. And I'm varying the width of them to between 2 and 3 inches. I didn't really want to get too detailed in my planning. I just kind of wanted to get stuck in and get this project together as quickly as possible. So I am kind of winging it a little bit, which mostly pays off. It's not something I do a lot, but for the most part, it definitely pays off. Now this pattern paper here, I think it's called Frame. It's something frames in the title. It had on this A side, it had these, you could use them as 3x4 journal cards, but each one, as you can see, has got a square sort of frame print in the middle of it. So I've cut those out and I want to use them in the layout. You can see that I have added a stitched border around my white cardstock background, and I have already gone ahead and used those fancy edge dies across each of these strips. Now you can see there that when I first cut them, I had the dies facing the wrong way round, and I didn't actually realize until I'd gone and cut all of the pieces that on a couple of them where the dies are pretty directional, so where it's as though they've been pulled out of a notebook, I had them the wrong way round. So I quickly went and cut the other side of them because they are, because I wasn't really getting particularly detailed about my planning. It was fine to just trim that little bit off the edge of those. So I'm going to play around with the placement a little bit because I am winging it and I hadn't pre-planned it. It takes me a little bit of fussing, not too much, just to kind of get an arrangement that I'm happy with. And what I'm looking for here is the way that the patterns sit up against each other, and also making sure that I've got the colors distributed nicely. So that paler blue check and the green sort of chevron-y print, they can't sit on top of each other because the patterns just get lost. I also didn't want the blues to be sitting on top of each other if I could avoid it, because I want some visual interest there. And because it is quite a simple design, I'm achieving that through through the placement of colors and layers. Now, as I mentioned, I wanted to use those pieces from the pattern paper as frames. So I cut the outside of those out using my paper trimmer and then grabbed a set of square metal dies to cut the centers out. It just so happens that the dies that I have a stitched border. And now, because I'm not actually using them as frames, I'm just using them as layering elements, and I want to bring in another bit of texture and to soften it up a little bit, and also because I don't want to cover up all of those vertical layers, I'm adding some vellum behind each of them, just a little bit of wet adhesive to adhere them down. Then I'm going to pop them off to the side to let them dry and cut them out with my scissors. I've definitely done more than I need there. They don't all end up on the page, but that's okay. They can go back in with the kit to be used on another project. And my photos, they are 3-inch square photos for this one. I've already matted them onto some white cardstock, and now I want to add some color behind them. So I've just grabbed a couple of the pieces from the Pocket Life kit. And again, looking at that same color scheme. Before I lay everything down though, I added some machine stitching to each of those vertical strips. So I've added a line of stitching down down one side of all but that last layer, the polka dot layer. That one has stitching down both sides of it. Again, it just adds a little bit of extra visual interest. It adds a little bit of extra texture. And of course, I love stitching. I love stitching on all of my layouts. So I'm going to play around with the placement a little bit here. I've chosen to mat the photos. 2 of them are on that that bright green, and one is on the paler blue. So that paler blue one definitely needs to sit in the middle just for a bit of balance. And I had originally planned to put all of these frames onto the page, but when I started playing around with it, I just couldn't really find a placement that worked and a placement that wasn't going to end up covering up all of those vertical strips. So in the end, I'm just going to use 2 of them. And I have already printed my journaling onto, now this is a tag that came from one of the die cut packs. It is a 3x4 tag. And what you saw me doing there was removing it from the printer sheet that I used. So to do that, I measured the card, I measured where I wanted the journaling to go, typed it up I used Photoshop, printed it out onto just some regular copy paper, then adhered the card over the top so that the card was sitting directly over the top of where the text was, and then run it straight back through the printer again. And that's a really great way to add some journaling with your printer onto some pre-printed journal cards. I absolutely love doing that. Now, because I did want to get this one finished pretty quickly, I wanted to keep it simple. I intentionally didn't spend too much time fussing with or thinking about my placement or my embellishment clusters. The only thing that I am doing here is getting out my centering ruler, because it is a simple design. Making sure that things are centered and straight, for me anyway, certainly does become a little bit more important. So I'm only measuring that middle photo there just to make sure that that's in the center. Then the photo that sits above it and the photo that sits below it, I'm happy to eyeball those, because then I know that, my design is pretty well centered on the page there. So I'm just using my ATG gun to adhere everything down. I don't really have anything too lumpy or bumpy, any real mixed media or textural elements underneath. So I don't have to worry too much about adding in any wet adhesive. The ATG should be just fine for this. I just want to make sure that I've got the placement of that little frame right there. So I do fuss around with it a little bit more than I probably should have. But I just wanted to make sure that what I'm looking at here is making sure that I've got this roughly the same amount of white space from the top of the layout and to the bottom of the layout. Now, my title here came from the foam and cardstock sticker pack that is in the embellishment kit. It just says New Adventure. For us, going on hikes, that's definitely a new adventure. We are not really outdoorsy people at all. So this was a really, really nice change for us. And then I'm going to finish things off on this one with just a few simple little embellishing pieces. I have printed out the date and the name of the place that we were doing our hike in onto some copy paper, or sorry, onto some printer paper. And then I've just chosen a whole bunch of smaller embellishment pieces from the die cut packs. I've got some stickers here, some foam stickers, some puffy stickers. Again, looking at that same color scheme, the blues and the greens and the teals. And I'm only going to build just a couple, just three sort of really small little embellishment clusters. I am going to repeat the foliage element across each of them, and I'm just trying to make sure that I've got a balance of colors here. So if I've got some green, I've got some blue, or I've got some green and I've got some teal, and then just a few pops of black. Again, that's really just to bring in some visual interest. And then to kind of help draw the eye across the page from the white space, I've used that green arrow, which was in the that was from one of the cut apart sheets in the Pocket Life kit, just to the side of that journaling tag there to add some direction. I hope this layout gives you some ideas for working with a limited colour palette or documenting your own holiday stories in a simple but intentional way. If you'd like to check out the Hip Kit Club kits I use for this project, I'll leave my affiliate link and discount code BelindaJane in the description below. It gives you 10% off your first order, and it really helps to support my channel too. The Hip Kit Club kits are packed with exclusive coordinating products, and some of the key benefits of being a subscriber that I love include discounts on additional kits, which includes bundled shipping, and their bi-monthly shipping option is brilliant for international subscribers like me. And of course, there's always loads of creative inspiration every month. I really do hope this project inspires you to get creative with your own supplies, and if you enjoyed this video, I'd love for you to like, comment and subscribe so that you don't miss any of my upcoming videos. But I will leave it there for now and say thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a great day.